Earlier today, I heard from a podcast that the fastest growing religion in the United States of America for women is witchcraft mixed with feminism and like abortion. So abortion, feminism, it's all mixed together into the religion of witchcraft. So horoscopes readings and tarot card readings. These are things that even among Christian women, you know, every woman I've ever dated, they knew what, horoscope sign that they had. And they would ask me, Keith, what's your horoscope sign? And I'm like, I don't know, and like, I don't even understand how you think that stuff tells you your future and makes no sense. I think it's foolishness, which it is. It's foolishness. You look at the stars in the sky, and somehow all the planets and the stars in the sky, when they align, is telling you something. What kind of narcissist do you have to be to think that the planets and the stars and all the solar systems and they're speaking to you? What kind of messed up ego does a person have to have? What kind of mental illness does a person have to believe that the stars in the sky can tell them like secret things about their life and their future? And in the Old Testament, God told his people Israel, don't look up to the sky for your signs and your wonders and try to read the stars. He told that to his people, Israel. That stuff has been going on since the Old Testament. In the book of Genesis, when I believe it was Jacob, yeah, when Jacob was working for Leah and Rachel's dad for the 7 years and the 7 years because he wanted to marry Rachel, but he got deceived and married Leah. Towards the end of that story, what you're going to find is that Leah and Rachel's father, he was practicing witchcraft to find out the destiny of Jacob. And through witchcraft, he found out that Yahweh was with Jacob. And even though he knew that Yahweh was with Jacob, he still thought that maybe I could deceive him some more and try to destroy him. And we can go into that and read it sometime. But there's some real powerful stuff going on around all that witchcraft stuff, but it's demonic. It's evil. You're messing with demonic stuff. But I found that interesting that the number one religion for women in the United States of America is not Christianity, it's witchcraft. The reason I find that interesting is because after World War II, when all the men came back home from all the wars, they went back to church. And who was leading the churches? Women. Women were leading the churches. And so it caused the men that went to war and they fought in the military when they came home, they did not have a church to belong to. And so that's when you start seeing the what's it called? The VW or the veteran build all those buildings for the vets. I forgot the abbreviation, but those buildings came about because veterans did not have a community to go back to. Women used to be Christian. Women used to be Christians. But now women are falling for witchcraft. They're falling for feminism, and they fell for the abortion scam and the, you know, go and become a successful, strong, successful, independent woman scam. And many of these women, they have chased these evils, and they're going to be, a lot of them are going to be turning, you know, 40 years old. They're no longer going to be able to have kids, and they're not married. They're single. And their bloodline is going to be cut off forever. They went and they chased all their careers and they got their money and their nice house and all that good stuff, right? At the expense of them not having kids to give to their kids everything that they worked hard for. Essentially, they wasted their life. And a lot of these women are doing witchcraft. They are doing, um, you know, looking at the stars in the sky, horoscopes. They're involved in feminist ideology, abortion. But what really breaks my heart the most is that a lot of them are going to turn 40 very soon, and they're no longer going to be able to have kids. And if they do have kids, their kids are going to be born with some kind of birth defect. And those children are going to live the rest of their life with some kind of disability, all because these women chose themselves over how God designed the system to be played. The man was supposed to go and protect and provide. The woman was supposed to stay home, take care of the kids, and do all that homemaker life. But in recent society has deceived this generation into thinking you don't need to get married, you don't need to go and have kids when you're in your 20s, wait till you're in your 30s. That works for men. Men, we can have kids until the day we die. It's just how God created men. But women, they have a biological clock. And that's what the generation before us knew, that most of us did not really know or understand, but they knew, and they deceived this generation of women and made them fall for the scam of feminism, witchcraft, and abortion, to choose yourself and to kill your offspring. An entire generation of women are going. I read the comments all the time. I follow the pages on Facebook. I follow these pages. I read the comments. There's pages dedicated to men and women, and they all have their arguments, and it's all centered on feminism. And I go into these comments and I read what other men are saying, and they have given up. on finding a woman. A lot of men in this generation in the United States of America, they're just waiting until they turn 35, 36, and then the younger generation of women grow up and they become mature enough that then they can go and find themselves a wife. So, quite literally, what's going on is that all the women in the 80s and early 90s who fell for the feminist scam, who fell for witchcraft, who fell for, thinking that the liberal ideology was the way to go. Man, in my generation are looking at these women and thinking it's not worth it. It's not worth it. You get married to these women, they'll just take everything you have and play victim, and they'll do everything in the world to destroy the man, just to take all his money, his house, his car, his kids. I was talking to this guy last week. I was talking to him. He was telling me about his ex-wife, and he said the last thing his ex-wife ever said to him was, "I got your money, your car, your house, and your kids. I don't need you." How bitter do you have to be as a person to destroy another human being? She took his pension, his kids, his farmhouse. Like, he had a house. He said he had like 80 acres. How bitter of a person do you have to be to go and destroy someone that you literally had kids with? Your DNA, his DNA created your kids. As a woman, if you have a son, do you want another woman to do to your son what you did to your husband? No, right? Because that's your son. You love your son. I hope you love your son. You gotta think about this stuff. Like, would I want my son to be treated by a woman like this? No, you would not. So you don't go and treat your husband like that. The number one complaints for divorce from women in the United States is not abuse. It's, "I'm bored. I found myself. I want to go explore and see if the grass is greener on the other side." It boils down to the feminist movement. It dates back to Eve. She had paradise. Paradise. Adam and Eve, they had everything that they could ever want and need. And Eve was like, it's just not good enough. I want to know good and evil. And she ate that fruit and destroyed future generations. Proverbs 31. Proverbs 31 talks about two different women. I'm going to turn to it. It's Proverbs 31 in verse 2. "What are you doing, my son? What are you doing, son of my womb? What are you doing, son of my vow? Do not give your strength to women, your ways to those who destroy kings." Solomon tells his son something that obviously he didn't. Solomon's son did not take the wisdom of Solomon, because when Solomon died, his son took over the kingdom, and then that's whenever the split of the kingdom happened. Solomon's son, destroyed Israel. But he tells his son, he says, do not give your strength to women, your ways to those who destroy kings. And that's Proverbs 31:3. In Proverbs 31:10, it says, an excellent wife, who can find? She is far more precious than jewels. The heart of her husband trusts in her, and he will have no lack of gain. Solomon in verse 10 says, who can find an excellent wife? But in verse 3, he says, don't give your strength to women, those who destroy kings. We see this in the United States of America. We see it in the courtroom. There's a movement right now of men that have been married and they lost everything. They lost their kids. They lost their reputation. They lost everything in the court of law. In family court, they lost everything. And so there's a movement right now to change the the way that divorce court operates. There's a movement right now to make custody 50-50. In Kentucky, they did make custody 50-50, and the divorce rates plummeted 25%. Because in Kentucky, what's going on is that in order to, if you get a divorce in Kentucky and you have kids, the fought thing that happens is that both parents get 50-50 custody and no one gets child support. And so in Kentucky, when that passed, women were like, well, if I'm not going to get child support, if I'm not going to get money, I'm not going to divorce him. So divorce in a lot of places in the United States is about how much money can I get if I get a divorce from him. And that's how women think. How much money will they give me if I divorce him? It's corrupt. But there's a movement right now to change all that across the United States. And I saw something that they're trying to pass a almost like like how you have the FBI or you have the IRS. They're trying to create an institution in the federal government where you're going to have regular, average, everyday people leading this institution, and it's going to hold accountable the judges and the lawyers and the justice system and the family court system is going to hold everyone accountable. And I don't know much about it, but it's supposed to fix the way that divorce is happening. And then there's all these stats out here that, there's a stat, right? That when, this is interesting. So there's a stat that when kids live with the father, the kids grow up more, they end up better off in life. But then there's another stat that when their kids live with the mother, they they see the doctor more. They go to the doctor more often and see a dentist more often. When they stay with the father, they don't see the doctor and dentist very often. And now you can sit here and say, "Oh well, man don't take care of their kids because they don't take their kids to the doctor." Man themselves don't even. I don't go to a doctor. I don't go to a dentist. Well, men, we don't do that. We don't. So, but women do. But then you look at the other way, like why do children in a better position in life if they are with their father and not with their mother? It's because men discipline. Men will punish their kids and discipline them. Women don't do that. And so there's these pros and the cons. And when you have a man and a woman that are together, raising kids together, they both have gifts and talents and the way that they do things that the other one won't. And so it's important that they come together and they are one flesh, especially when kids are involved. But there's a movement, and I've noticed that now that there are women stepping forward and speaking out publicly because there's a lot more women online that are like pro feminist and pro abortion and pro liberal. But now a lot of the conservative women who are very conservative and biblical and they are traditionalists, they're starting to come out and call out the other women. So the conservative women are starting to come out into the light and call out the feminist women. In other words, you got the Proverbs 31:10 woman calling out the Proverbs 3 woman. But this is all witchcraft. It's all witchcraft. It's evil. It's demonic. What we are watching in the United States of America is witchcraft being practiced by women. That is why I'm doing this video. If you're a guy and you're like, man, everything's just falling apart for me and blah 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 blah, right? If you're a follower of Jesus Christ and and you got Jesus living in you and the Holy Spirit is dwelling in you, he's tabernacled in you like the book of John says. If any if anyone is doing witchcraft against you, you have all the power and authority given to you by God to have all that witchcraft sent back to sender. I'm telling you, man. For y- I went through a breakup, right? I went through a breakup, and then after that breakup, one thing after another, after another, after another, for years, just things that started like I everything would go wrong. I lost this job. I lost my car. I hit a deer with my new car. It just all these things would go wrong, and I couldn't understand why. And one day I had this dream, and I told someone the dream I had, and then somebody else came and told me, Keith, somebody is doing witchcraft against you. And so when they told me that, that was like literally 6 months ago. This stuff has been going on since 2022, where like I keep on getting hit over and over and over. And about 6 months ago, someone told me somebody's doing witchcraft against you, Keith. That's why you had that dream. And that's why all these other things keep happening to you. So I prayed that God will put his hedge of protection around me, put his angels around me. Anyone that's doing witchcraft against me, let it all go right back to cinder. I was praying that and praying it, and I had this dream that I dreamed that there was this invisible wall around me, and I looked in the distance and I saw the girl that I was dating, you know, that I went through the breakup with. She was on the other side of the wall trying to speak to me, but I could not hear what she said. And but after that, and after I had that dream and I started praying for God to put his hedge of protection around my life, anyone doing witchcraft against me, let it go right back to cinder. And everything has been great. I have not, I've not gone through anything major. Matter of fact, God has been blessing me. It's almost like it it flipped upside down where like I was being not blessed and then someone's like, hey, someone's doing witchcraft against you. And then once I start praying, hey, God, help me out, send all that stuff back to whoever's doing it. And then it just blessing, 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 blessing. And now I got this church plant going. So every day almost I'm praying, God, whoever's doing witchcraft against me, send it right back to the sender. Let it hit the sender tenfold. Now, people, a few people, I told a few people I was doing this, and they got so mad. Oh, how can you say that you want the witchcraft to go back to sender? And I'm like, wait a minute. Why are you mad that I'm sending it back to sender? Why? Are you the one doing it to me? Like, if you don't want the evil that you send to other people to come back to you, don't send it to those people. Some of us belong to God. Some of us have the hedge of protection around our life. And some of us know how to pray. I I have prayed some crazy prayers and asked God to do things that and I watched them answer my prayers. I'm gonna tell you a story. When I first moved here, I was still dating the girl that I was dating, right? And so they had 500 acres of land with a cabin off to the side. And I was still trying to debate. I wasn't sure if I was going to rent the cabin out or go find a place to live in town. I prayed. I said, "Dear God, uh, thank you for helping me get this far with the Wisconsin calling. But God, if you want me to rent this cabin out from her dad, then give me a sign and let the sign be that when I wake up in the morning, let her dad be right outside this cabin, cutting down trees with a fire right next to him. And if I see him cutting down trees, God, and there's a fire right next to him, I would take that as a sign that you want me to rent this cabin out from him." I pray that. It was back in 2022 of March. The very next day, I get up, I go look outside the window because I'm hearing like noises. And what do I see in the distance? I see her dad cutting down trees just like 100 feet from the cabin, and he has a fire right next to him. And remember, I like I said, his this guy owns like 500 acres. And he could have been on any location of that. property, and he was right there. It was an answered prayer. Like it's one thing, okay, like maybe he comes to cut down trees. I was like, God, put a fire right next to him too. Let him be cutting down trees with a fire next to him. Because I was thinking, well, he might be cutting down trees just because he doesn't know much about me, right? Or something like that. And maybe he's gonna come but I was like, God, put a fire next to him. If I see a fire next to him, then that's gonna be a sign that you want me to rent this cabin. And that's what I saw. The next day, I go out there and he's cutting down trees, and there's a fire right next to him. I go out there and we start talking some more. But yeah, some crazy prayers. But if you're in that situation and you're like in a divorce situation and your ex-wife is taking you to court and trying to take everything you have, pray. Pray first for Jesus to come into your heart, right? You need Jesus. You cannot act upon the authority of Christ unless Jesus is living in your heart. And once you get to that point and Jesus is living in your heart, then ask God to put a hedge of protection around your life. And if anyone is doing witchcraft against you, send it all right back to whoever was sending it to you. Because I believe that a lot of these people, a lot of these women that are divorcing their husbands and taking everything they have, they're most likely going to some other place and doing a bunch of witchcraft against their ex-husband that they're trying to divorce to destroy him spiritually, then destroy him physically, emotionally, financially, but it starts spiritually. That's why women are going towards witchcraft because it's spiritual. If you destroy someone spiritually, you can destroy them physically, financially, emotionally, mentally. If you can destroy them spiritually. I remember after the breakup, I was so confused. Like, man, everything was so good. Like, it made no sense. She just like got up and was like, I don't want to be with you no more. It was on April the 1st. And so today, to this very day, I think, man, was she trying to do like an April Fool's joke? Because, uh, but at the same time, I don't know. But a week later, I broke up with her because like that happened on April 1st, and I was like, you know what? If you do leave, the door will never open. I told her that when she was trying to break up with me. I told her if you walk away from me, from this relationship, I will never get back with you. I told her that when she was trying to break up with me. And then she was like, it was like she changed her mind or something. But then 7 days later, she treated me real bad for that week. And so on April the 7th or 8th, that's when I was like, you know what? I don't want to be with you no more. But a few weeks later, I was talking to her dad, and her dad made a comment saying something like, she said that you think you're better than other people or something. I don't know. I said, no, I don't. He said, yeah, you have this thing about you that you think that you're, I don't know. He said something weird to me, and I just remember looking at him and saying, I would have to deny Jesus Christ. I would have to deny Jesus Christ to be whatever she's trying to picture me to be. Like, I am who I am. I'm not gonna change who I am. But it was spiritual. It was spiritual. She went, and the first thing she did was try to destroy me spiritually. That's why her dad came and was like they were attacking my faith in God. Witchcraft and people that practice witchcraft, the first thing they would do is destroy you spiritually. That's why the dream I had when I asked God to put a hedge of protection around my life, that's why in the dream there was an invisible wall. And I saw my ex-girlfriend on the other side of the invisible wall trying to say stuff to me, but I could not hear because she was the one doing witchcraft against me. And once God put that hedge of protection around my life, all the witchcraft that she was doing was no longer affecting me. God was protecting me, and He is still protecting me. But He can also protect you if you give your life to Jesus Christ. I'm telling you, right after I found that out, I started praying. Let everything go right back to sender and let it go back sevenfold so that they will know that my God is Yahweh. I believe that she's not the only one doing witchcraft against me, that there's other people doing it, and that there's probably like a whole group of people in Northwest Wisconsin doing it. Types of witchcraft that you could see usually operates in the spirit of Jezebel. And you see this also when people gossip. When people gossip about other people, this is a type of witchcraft too. But the type of witchcraft that I'm talking about that women are actually practicing is that I don't know exactly how it all works, but they're like communicating with spirits, demonic spirits. And the spirits are telling them, you have to do this or to this person, or we are going to do this to you. And so they go and they attack all these people in the spiritual realm. But then things happen in the physical realm because what's happening in the spiritual realm is manifest in the physical realm. And so they go and attack all these people and they're successful. They're like, oh, I attacked this person and I won. They fell down and they fell down, they fell down, they fell down. And it becomes almost like a game. But the game ends the moment they attack the wrong person with the witchcraft. You never, you never want to attack somebody that is protected by God. You don't want to attack a Jacob. Jacob was being attacked by his father-in-law with witchcraft. And what happened? His father-in-law lost everything. And Jacob gained everything, but it was all about the Lord. It wasn't about Jacob doing this or Jacob doing that or his wife's doing this. It was the Lord. It was God. It was Yahweh. Same thing for you and me when it comes to witchcraft, but we have to be proactive in this. We can't just turn a blind eye like I was. I was turning a blind eye for years, and I couldn't put my finger on it. Why is all this stuff happening to me? And so now the way I pray is I will pray and ask God to put his hedge of protection around my life, my home, my ministry, the people who follow my ministry, the my bank account, put a hedge of protection around my vehicle, put a hedge of protection around my my company truck. I just go down the whole list. I'm like, God, please put your hedge of protection and your angels to guard. And I just start going down the list. I did this for this this one lady. She owns a business, and they were not getting any customers. And so I started praying, like, God, put a hedge of protection around her business and around her life, and now there's reports that she's starting to receive customers, and I think it's because there's individuals in the city of Phillips, Wisconsin, practicing witchcraft and sending it to people, and sending it to me, sending it to people who support me. So I'm praying. I'm like, God, anyone that supports me, just put a hedge of protection around them, bless them, and send all that witchcraft back to whoever sent it. And it's going to be sad because that evil that they send out, it will go back to them. And it's going to be more severe because the way that the spiritual realm works, whenever you send evil spirits to attack a child of God, they go and they see, oh, there's a light. In the spiritual realm, what happens is the evil spirit will go over there to the child of God and see the light of God. And then they get scared and they get angry. The demonic spirit gets angry and scared and turns back around and goes back to whoever sent them. And they will do to the sender sevenfold whatever they got sent to do to the child of God. And it's not because the evil spirit doesn't do the sevenfold to the sender because the child of God tells the evil spirit to do that, but because that's just how the spiritual realm works. You start sending evil spirits to go and attack God's people. Those evil spirits are not stupid. They're going to go over there and be like, wait a minute. And then they're going to turn back around and they're going to be angry at the person that sent them and, and punish them for it. And so, quite literally, I'm expecting and I am waiting on many people in Price County who have done witchcraft against me, against my ministry, against the people who follow my ministry. These individuals, some of them are going to lose everything. And some of them are going to lose some of everything. Whatever kind of witchcraft that they were sending towards me and my ministry, it's on its way back. And it's not going to be good for them. But it's not my fault, whatever happens to them. Because I'm not the one doing the witchcraft. I'm just the one saying, God, protect me against it and protect everyone who is part of my ministry against all that witchcraft. Send it right back to the sender. I expect that there will be pastors and pastors' wives and churches and deacons and their families that are going to receive the um the due reward for sending witchcraft my way and the way of this ministry. But if you're part of that growing religion of practicing witchcraft in the United States of America, you need to repent. You need to give your life to Jesus Christ. Throw away all your rubies and cards and tarot cards. Stop looking at the stars in the sky and start reading the Bible. This is the Word of God. This is life. This is truth. Crazy, crazy generation that we're living in.